What's up, guys? It's another beautiful Wheel Wednesday podcast. We are back in 2023. I'm Luis from Koenig, and this is my buddy,
Rich from Koenig Wheels.
an esteemed colleague.
Yes.
Esteemed. What does that mean?
Well liked.
But what's up, guys? I'm excited to actually have this conversation today. We actually have a very cool guest coming on today. He's actually my buddy. He's actually someone that I know very well. He's my crewmate. For some of you that don't know, and some of you do know, I'm actually a b-boy as well. And this guy is actually part of my b-boy crew. But
and if you don't know what b-boying is, it's breakdancing.
Breakdancing. Yep, we do all that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm excited to bring him on because not only that, he's also an automotive car guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the things that we have in common. And I'm excited because he actually has a podcast called Namsayin that's actually a really well-known podcast in the automotive community.
Cars and Convos.
Not cars and convo, but not only do they do that, they also do stuff for the P&W community. And I'm excited to have him on the podcast. We want to welcome Garrett from Namsayin Cars and Convo Podcast. What's up, my brother? How you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on, Luis? What's going on, Rich? Thanks for having me, guys. Great to be on. Another Wheel Wednesday. Thanks for, again, the invite. Luis, it's great to see you. Rich, nice to meet you for the first time.
Yes, you as well.
No, thanks, guys.
Yo, man, I'm excited to have you on. And this is something that we've had in the works for a while. Like, me and Garrett kind of always wanted, we were talking about me coming on Namsayin and having conversations on there as well as a guest and all that. And I'm excited that he's on here because we have so much in common. We're hip hop heads, but on top of the fact that we're also your car enthusiasts as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, like that was, we already have a background with braking. I mean, me and Luis have been crew members for many years, traveled and competed in other states and gotten to boogie and work together to work on our craft, which has been a lot of fun. It's always been a great time visiting Luis and traveling, competing with him. And then on top of that, like you said, I also reached out to Luis because I work with a group out here called Namsayin. We put together a podcast called the Namsayin Cars and Convos Podcast. Namsayin was started by a couple of brothers out here. The name's Walter and Al Franco. They put together this just real genuine community over cars kind of ideaed gathering group. I would call it, even a branding, but even more than that, because it's definitely a community out here. What they kind of curated, I even was just a part of. I was definitely one of those people that just started to go to the Namsayin events. I knew Walter and Al from high school. They were a couple years older than me, so I always already saw them as like some of the cool kids from back in the day. And then just through time, going to all their events, hanging out with them, getting to know them more, pitched them the idea of like, hey, I think you guys need to start a podcast. I have a background in radio. I came from radio, so I worked at sports talk radio. So I used to do just call in and talk sport trash and all that kind of stuff for 4 hours in the afternoon on local colored radio, and that was a lot of fun. And so taking some of that love, I kind of pitched it to them like, I think we should have this kind of, cars and convo idea. And they were like, absolutely, this is something they'd wanted to do. And so I got to be kind of part of the growing team there. But yeah, no, Namsayin, very cool that we've been able to kind of branch out and talk to different people in our direct community, bring out stories of, past car lovers and the car community from like the 80s and 90s. And just tell those stories that really build our community up and keep people like interested more than just the cars. We love talking about cars, but some of the best things that we've had in our community is just sometimes the old school, conversations to people that were like, I used to roll with Sir Mix-a-Lot down in the 80s off Broadway for that song called Posse on Broadway. And it's like, man, are you for real? It's like, yeah, that was about Broadway in Seattle. So some of those things are very cool to like, just get an introspect look at that you don't really ever get to hear, or they never got written down. So it's like really just a word of mouth story. Beyond that, though, the Namsayin community that Al and Walter built is definitely a beautiful, genuine community. They throw cruise events, they throw car meets. Again, I go to all of these things and definitely have partaken in them for years now. And what they're doing out there is definitely one of the things that's from the grassroots, as I would say. They're really coming from the people for the people. And then on top of that, in my daily role, I also am the membership manager of the Shop Club, which is
And we wanted to talk about this because we were all here interested. When you said to me, this is a country club for gearheads.
Mhm.
I had to Google it myself. I was like, wait, what does that even mean? And then I Googled it and I looked into it, and I'm like, we were all kind of like, yo, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I'm like,
For sure.
wait, you guys have courses in there. You guys have like, what else did
Nah, I don't even remember.
Yeah,
off the
no.
top of my
I
head.
mean,
I'll run
better
it down. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, the shop is a very unique location. I recently joined this place. I found out about them a couple of years ago, and just kind of through serendipity, ended up being able to join their team as the membership manager. But the shop club is, again, the country club for gearheads. So what that means is the best way I can put it is, think about the country club that you already know.
Yeah.
Like a golf country club.
Uh-huh.
Lots of amenities, got pros on
right.
deck. They have classes you can take. They have really, really great deals on clubs. You can get maybe special events, or you get, special access to professionals or other things like that. So take all those ideas, spin them directly towards motorcycles and cars. We have a 55,000 square foot facility in Seattle. That facility houses 7 lifts. It has 2 wash bays. It has access to all types of tools, whether they be air tools, metric, standard. All of that is all usable by our members. We have technicians on hand that can actually do work on our members' cars if they like. Everything from just like, I need oil change and tire rotation, all the way up to I want a turbo kit put on my car. We also have metal fabrication. So we're actually building 2 Broncos in there that are built up from the frame. Broncos are going to have Coyote 5.0 Mustang motors in them. We do everything from lead laying to putting in floorboards to doing wood buck metal hammering in-house. Our Elliot, our metal fabricator, is an amazing guy. He does all the work for our membership guys that need front lips, or again the new bumper for their 911 or something like that. So again, it is truly taking all of the amenities you can put into what the gearhead wants and putting it under one roof. And then on top of that, we store cars for our members. So as a member, you can store a car in our facility. It comes with a full valet service. Our valet team will grab a car no matter where it is in our facility. If you give us an hour, we'll have it pulled out, wiped down, vacuumed, and ready for our member to pick it up and enjoy it for the day. They bring it back. They just drop it off. Even if they only wanted to drive it for a day, they can just drop it back off. We put it back in the collection, no problem. On top of that, we have events there that are like, we had the Singer Porsche group come out. They brought out 2 of their cars. We had their head kind of marketing out there and talking to our members about like what it is to build these kind of bespoke cars. We had Patrick Long, one of the only American drivers for Porsche, come out and do like a lunch Q&A with like a bunch of our members and some of the public, just kind of saying, hey, this is what do you want to know about what it's like to actually race, and what is the kind of ins and outs of this life. We had Flying Lizard Race Team come out and sit with about 45 of our members and go over what it is to set up a suspension for a track car. They went over and brought in one of their beautiful Cup 911s, went over like what are the best tricks and trades of like how to like keep tire pressures and like suspension numbers in the right like cue, how to not come into bad habits or things like that when like going into race tracks and that kind of thing. What are the most common places to look for wear or damage? I mean, it was just total stuff that you would never be able to get or find necessarily, and it was being taught by the true professionals that are taking this stuff out into the actual real world. So we bring all that into one house, and then we try to bring all of our community together to not only mingle with these professionals and hang out and have like a new place to be their front room, but also to meet other members and maybe meet their next best friend. You know what I mean? Like we want other people to hang out and actually like share their own passions with each other.
So, and by the way, we're not, it seems like we're doing a commercial for the shop, but it's just literally we're interested in what's going on over there, because
for sure.
I got to think about it. Do we have anything? I don't think we have anything like that. I've never heard of anything like that ever.
That
which is kind of
awesome.
cool. Yeah, no, it's really cool to kind of see that's happening. You know what I'm saying? But
members only, auto club almost, and gives you everything you need. That's awesome.
Well, so out of curiosity though, like what is it like? Are you guys selective with the members that you have, or can anyone join? Do they have a specific? Do they have to have a specific type of car, or is it just?
Can I come through to Daewoo Lannis or something?
Yes. So here's the funny thing about that. Like we do have some stipulations on membership, but it's not based on car and it's not based on financials. It's based on your behavior. Like we've had members that have very nice cars, but we have a public restaurant. And we have some members that have come in or brought other people that wanted to become members, and they didn't treat our wait staff very well. That meant we were not going to extend them an offer for becoming a member, because if that type of person can't even treat our wait staff very well, what are they going to do to other members? Yeah. What kind of behavior and kind of ego are they going to bring into our open discussions? And so in that way, that's really more so what we are. We don't care what kind of car you got. It's $150 a month only to keep this membership. That includes everything. There's no extra cost to rent our lifts. There's no extra cost to use our tools. $150 gets you in every month. It gets you access to everything 100%. If you wanted to wash your car, if you had a Daewoo Lawless, but you signed up and you were a great person who loved to work on his Lawless, but like just loved the car community, and you wanted to come into our shop and wash your Lawless every single day, as a member, you can. No problem. Doesn't matter. We're there for the community, and we're definitely more about the people than just the cars. Now, with that being said, a lot of our members have a lot of nice cars. So we have everything in the collection from, old like 1930s, like REO Speedwagons, which are like coach built cars, all the way up to like Carrera GTs, which are, $2 million, supercars basically. But nobody is ever kept out for their type of car. We have guys that work on their cars all the time that like track some of their cars. Some of them have, Porsches that they track. Some of them have Focuses that they track. A couple of them have the spec Miatas that they love to take to the racetrack. Some of them drive their Miata with tires and a small trailer to the track, drive it back, put everything into the collection and store it for the winter time when they're not racing. So, I mean, we totally are here about the people who want to be here. But it's also got to be about that community. Are you a good-minded person? Do you want to link up with people? Is this more of like an ego flex? Because if it is, we may not be the place for you. We want all of our members to come together and hang out. And again, we have a member lounge. So while we do have a public restaurant at the shop, there's an actual like membership lounge that has TVs and conference rooms. We actually have, because we're a private membership, we are allowed to do cigars. And so we have an indoor behind the bookcase.
Living lavish, man.
Bro.
It is.
I'm going to, so by the way, Garrett, I'm going to Seattle in, I think, April for a wedding. But we're actually driving up to Snohomish, like that area. But there's a day that I have off, and I'm going to actually stay with Diaz.
Yes.
And we can meet up, bro. I want to check out the spot, bro.
Oh, we have to.
We have to. I want to feel cool. I want to have a cigar. Like,
oh, yes.
Like,
the coolest thing is we kind of did it over the top. The owner of automotive.
I'm an automotive guy. What's up? Are you an automotive guy?
What you driving? The funniest thing is we put it all behind a great facade. So if you walk into the club membership area, there's couches out there. There's a pool table. We also have a full VR race simulator. But on one wall, there's a bookcase.
Oh, you can read.
The middle bookcase.
That's the first thing I'm gonna do. It's great. at a country club, I'm gonna go get a book and be like.
So,
but the middle bookcase in the on the wall is actually a false door. You push it and it opens into our cigar lounge that has a fireplace and everything behind the bookcase. So it's a full-on. I mean, you basically come in a robe and you have a little cognac and you swirl it and you hold your cigar and hey, I don't ever get no respect. Hey,
like, what do you
do? A
drive?
little Rodney Dangerfield.
Right. Like, what do you drive? He says McLaren. I'm like, well, I got a 2017 Ford Fiesta. What's up, buddy?
Muy fiesta.
Yo, but I'm excited.
That sounds crazy.
Like, legitimately,
you gotta go to that.
I know he's gonna take me. That's the cool thing about it. Like,
I'll give you the
what I mean?
full royal treatment, absolutely. And they're opening more of them. So the cool thing is there's more than one location. There's also a shop in Dallas. They're opening another one in Houston. There's one going to be opening in Palm Springs, and then they're looking at hopefully Miami. They do want to get into New York and other places. Mostly it's because of you need a large space to do this type of thing, especially because you need the car storage on top of the fact that it's not just about storing cars. They want to have the amenities in the clubhouse side of it. So getting into places like New York is mostly about trying to find a space that you don't have to charge an arm and a leg, because the other side is it doesn't really behoove us to get a really expensive space and then make it more than $150.
Bro,
the
New
biggest
York,
point is we don't want to kick people out just because of finances. So that's the kind of idea of it too, is we want to keep it low enough that it's accessible to everybody, but is big enough that we're not just saying, oh, we're at capacity at only 20 because our space is too small. So
that's the thing about out here in New York. It's like most of the people that like the car people that are here, they usually have like shops outside of New York, meaning like not New York proper. Like, for example, like there's some in Long Island, then you'll have, some in Connecticut, then you have some in Jersey, but New York proper, it's very few far in between that you'll find a good car shop or anything like car related, because it's just so condensed and small. And then not only that, overpriced. You're literally for a closet, you're paying like what, $2,500 a month? You know what I'm saying? Like apartments are crazy, bro, out here.
So I can only imagine what parking is, because imagine you don't get great parking, but if it ever becomes available, a small spot must be thousands of dollars.
But you can.
You know what I mean,
if you have the money, Brooklyn.
It seems like a lot of shops normally kind of like pile their cars into like a really small parking lot, or they flood the street.
Yeah,
you know, and they're not supposed to do that. But,
they're not supposed to.
I don't know. You have to work with what you got, which is not much over here.
Exactly. And so obviously we try to make it into areas where we can obviously get the full space, so that we can have, again, the clubhouse side of it. Because the biggest thing that we never want to do is just be, car storage, because that's not the point. It's more about building community than anything else. So yeah, that kind of is, if I was to put it in a nutshell, that is what the shop is. And that is what a country club for gearheads kind of means. It's really focusing it to take away, if you can't have a garage like you'd think of for your, at your house, like the classic, gearhead would want. We try to fulfill that and not make it too expensive. You know what I mean?
So one of the things I wanted to kind of do, Garrett, is, although I know you very well, I wanted to kind of hear you. I don't know this side of you, actually.
Sure.
Like, what I know that, you have your own garage and stuff like that, and that you have your own stuff that you do. Tell us a little bit about how your journey into cars. Like, how did that happen? Like, what did where did it start? Was it just, one day you got a car like everybody else and just started working on it, and then it progressed from there? Or how did your love for cars happen?
For sure. Thanks. No, it started with my father. So my father got me into cars. I started at the University of Flashlight Holding. So I had to graduate from there first, nice. Dad telling me where to point the flashlight, kind of walking me through like what we were doing. This is how an ignition system works. This is why we're gapping spark plugs. This is how, a push rod works. This is how a camshaft works. These are the differences that you're looking at here. From there, I was kind of bitten by the bug, obviously, mostly using hand tools. But most of the stuff I was working on with Pops was older, muscle car stuff, or, old vintage cars. So things that were just more simple mechanically, not a lot of extra parts, not even a lot of extra wires, sometimes only a single, ignition, coming from, 6 cylinders. So you're not really dealing with too much there. And of course, no computers. So I really got bit by the bug for just turning wrench and taking apart things like that. From there, it started to get into other cars, from German cars working into, Japanese cars. I kind of just fell in love with all the different types of cars. And the biggest thing for me was I loved the quirkiness that you could find in engineering. You could find, an inline 6 from 6 different companies, but it would be slightly honed differently, different materials would be used, different ideas of engineering with cooling would be used, and you'd get completely different sounds. You get completely different, power bands or ways that the motor would spin. And so that started to really intrigue me. And so from there, it was just, trying to, jump down the rabbit hole. So then it was, building personal projects, having fun with them, taking them to shows as much as I could, racing them as much as one could, here nor there, whether it be in the streets or at some of our places out here in the Pacific Northwest. We are blessed to have quite a bit of driving available out here, but you sometimes have fun on the street as well, I guess, from time to time. But building those kind of cars just led me down into even more, got into more engineering with bikes. Really fell in love with motorcycling as well. Ended up getting into like old bikes, doing like carbureted bikes, and even stuff like 2-stroked bikes, which have oil injection and those kind of things into it. So just really fell down the hole of automotive and just loved it. So it was always a passion, you know what I mean? Like me and Luis share a passion for dance. You don't know necessarily why you do it, but it makes you feel good and you're happy when you're doing it, and it makes you feel better than you're doing other things. So I never quit, working on cars and just trying to make new projects and work on new technology or old technology and figure out what worked or what kind of interesting things maybe were made for a short time, maybe because they were too expensive, but you got a limited, window of, oh, wow, this engineering was really cool and got to use it. One of the projects that I'm currently just wrapping up, took me quite a while to finish, is a Rotary project. So I've been building a...
That's what I kind of wanted to get into.
Yeah.
For those watching, he's actually working on an FDRX7, and it's a Rotary project, obviously, and that's got to be difficult, man. Like, I don't know how, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why. First and foremost, just the fact of how it's just built, the whole car, like the maintenance that you probably have to maintain on that car itself. Like, what does that look like for you, man?
Well, it's one of those things that's like, it's a labor of love. I'll tell you that much. This particular one has been about a 10-year project. Wow. It takes a lot of time to get performance pieces for Rotary if you're going to start to build it up or try to make like what we were trying to do. We were trying to make it spin to high RPM. We were also trying to get a little bit more power into it. And it's also a very small motor. So when you're dealing with that, you're also dealing with just not as many engineers. So the really, really talented people that can build rotary stuff are fewer and far between, and they're in more demand. So you have to wait for their product. Then sometimes you're also at the mercy of just other outside sources. There's a couple times when I got, a refinished eccentric shaft, which is kind of like the crankshaft in a regular piston driven motor.
Yeah.
And I sent it out. It was lightened and had balancing done, and then I'd get it back, and because of something due to shipping, the box came back, looked like somebody drop kicked it, and my piece is damaged. So it's like, well, I had to wait for this piece to get fixed. He did a good job, and then because somebody decided I don't really care about my work on Tuesday, fuck this box. Sorry, my language. Then I had to wait again to go be like, hey man, can you redo the work? And he's like, yeah, no problem. But then you're just, another 6 weeks, so you're just waiting. So for Rotary, that was the biggest thing that I ran into. Sometimes you're just waiting to find the right people, and some people promise they can do it, but when it comes to Rotary, if you really don't know what you're doing, you can easily get yourself into trouble, or you can just damage the pieces. It doesn't have a lot of moving parts, but they move completely differently than a traditional motor. You have about 8 moving actual parts inside the motor that are going on, but again, it's spinning triangles. So if you bore something over in the wrong way, or you thin out something too much on the metal, it'll heat up, it'll melt. It'll have too much overlap, it won't run correctly. So again, some people think they know what they're doing and they say they can, but again, they're going off of what they learned from the piston world, and some of that obviously translates physics wise, but other things you got to do just specifically for Rotary because it's just a weird motor. It doesn't quite work on the same principle. So it's been a lot of fun to go over it. It's again, I've taken a lot of time to do very specific stuff to the build. I worked with a great engine builder who definitely went above and beyond. He's one of those guys that kind of is eccentric in his work. His name's John Swide. He's got a shop out in Michigan. It's called Legend Motorsport, and they just do. He does engine builds like nobody I've seen. He takes hand tools and dimples all the intake runners that look like golf balls. Yeah. It's amazing the amount of detail he does, just because he's like, no, it has to be honed perfectly if you want it to rev to this level, if you want it to last any kind of time, if you don't want it to build up carbon in these areas that are weak. He's kind of a Doc Brown from Back to the Future when it comes to this thing. He kind of can make the flux capacitor work, and nobody knows why, but he can make it work. So it's been working with him and getting things all buttoned up, and again, mostly finding pieces. But it's been a 10-year project. It's finally come to closure. It ran about, we kind of went between a middle tune in the end. We ran it all the way up to about 21 pounds of boost for maximum power.
Nice.
It produced 591 wheel horsepower. We detuned it a little bit. We brought it back down to about 17, 18 pounds maximum, just to keep the EGTs down. The exhaust gas temps were getting quite high. With anything with Rotary, you have a lot of heat. It's a tiny little motor, but it spins really quickly. And then obviously your turbo is obviously the quickest thing that maintains your heat. And so my hot side was starting to get really hot. So we just kind of brought it back down. So we're probably around the 500, 510 at we sit. And then it's obviously dialable down. We can take it down with the Haltech system that we put through there. We ran full Haltech 2500 Elite ECU. And so lots of controllability. So we're able to kind of just take it down and put it around, about a bar, about 14 pounds of boost. And you can just move it around, tool it around without having any issue. The computer will catch up, and then you can dial it right back up if you need to. And it goes right up to the 17, 18 and is happy as a clam and does everything we need to. So it's one of those ones that we kind of did above and beyond when it comes to all the safety parameters. Again, we did the Haltech, so we had a lot of controls. We were running meth injection. We're running 6 injectors, so we're running 4 2000 injector dynamics and then 2 1050s for just kind of running around and idling and keeping it moving around on city streets and that kind of thing. But it's all, I guess the testament to the build is the goal of the whole thing was to make a wolf's in sheep's clothing. So we kind of took the idea of, I don't want to change the hood. I don't want to change the headlights. I don't want to change the front bumper. I don't want to change these things. If we have to adapt them or modify them slightly, let's do that. But let's try to wedge these types of performance components into the factory body lines and keep it looking like already a very nice looking FD. I think the lines of the FD RX-7 are already great, but let's see if we can engineer our way into can we stuff some oil coolers underneath the headlights? They already did in the factory, but can we make them a little bit better and wire them a little bit nicer so they're even better looking, but again, sitting behind the factory mask. So we're just kind of making a super sport version of what Mazda already made.
Yeah.
And we've been successful. From what we have right now, it drives, it runs, it starts hot, it runs nice and cold. I don't know if you guys know about performance cooling products, but I went with a company called Davis Craig. They do an electric water pump.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Oh my God, is it works so good? It works so good. We are having problems getting it up to temp. And so we actually had to like tell the Davis Craig, okay, stop cooling it. I mean, it's also nice to work in some of these things nowadays. When I first got the car, I think the first computer system I was able to put on it was a Power FC, which is from Apexy.
Okay.
I was able to tune it, but it was one of those things where you're looking at like a map full of fuel data. And it's like you're watching this computer and it's highlighting one of these little bar areas so you can tune it, and it's like jumping around, jumping back and forth, jumping up and down. And I'm like, oh, is this normal? It's like, yeah, the computer's kind of looking around here. It's not really sure what it's looking at, but you need to make all these numbers kind of fit what the computer wants. And now working with like the Haltech or like the Davis Craig, where everything is completely programmable to like degrees, or like boost by gear, boost by timing, things like that with what the Haltech do. You're like, oh, it's much better to work on also these Rotaries or any of these high-end cars with our level of tech that we have nowadays. It is a godsend, because I can only imagine trying to do some of this stuff on
absolutely
again, the 90s computers, and then
100%.
if it went wrong, you're gonna blow up your stuff for sure. You're gonna blow it up. So that's been a learning curve, but a lot of fun to put that type of stuff on some of this older 90s technology and kind of bring it to the modern day fold.
Bro, that's another thing that I'm gonna have to check out while I'm out there, bro, is this build. You know what I mean? Just because I see the amount of time and effort that you've put in it, and I do remember you kind of mentioning the car a while back and kind of telling me about it. On top of the fact that you were working on another car too, which was the GT. What was that car that you were working on? It wasn't a Celica. It was something else that you were working on.
Yeah, it was a Celica. I had an 88 Celica GT4.
That's right. That's right.
And so I was able to put that one together as well. That was actually kind of,
bro, that's a good
put that one
looking
together while I was still working on the FD, because it was starting to realize,
What year was it?
It was in 1988.
Oh,
and so
bro, that body style's fire.
That's a body style you like.
That I like the 80s style bodies, bro. Like I'm a big MR2. Like the 80s MR2 is my. Bro, it's like my dream car. You know what I'm saying?
It's got all the extra homologation. That's the cool. It's got the edge, the angle. It's got the pop-up headlights. I agree with you. I think they're the best looking. I built that one while I was building on the FD. So because it seemed like the FD was going to take much more time than I anticipated, and I didn't have any kind of fun car to drive around, I'd found that car in the Pacific Northwest. A lady up in northern Washington had it. She was the original owner. Wow. And I was able to pick it up from her. It was red, leather interior, 5-speed. It was the all track, so it had the 3S GTE, all-wheel drive. It was a blast.
What happened to it?
I ended up selling it after a couple of years. But what I ended up doing to it is actually randomly at one point, I don't know what happened, but I think something as far as my intake, like the plastic booting around the intake, actually like was breaking down or becoming brittle on the underside, and I didn't realize this. And at some point, in it just driving around and the motor moving, it started to crack and actually chip away at the underside of my plastic intake, again, past all of like the air filter. And some of those pieces got actually chewed up inside of my intake. So I ended up actually having slight damage to my intake manifold, and was kind of looking at like, well, what do I want to do here? I either have to like take this motor out and rebuild it, or I have to put a different motor in it. So what I ended up doing is, because Toyota is awesome in their infinite wisdom of how they do that. I think it's called Kaizen, but they do this thing where they keep moving their engineering forward, but they don't erase their old engineering. So basically the 3S GTE has been made on a lot of cars. They put it in the MR2 that you love, and they put it in a bunch of other Celicas, and they put it in some other Japanese like Camrys and Corollas as well. Like they put it in a ton of stuff that you didn't even necessarily get in America. But they also changed the motor itself. So they made like turbo versions. They made like the red top 3S GE motor, which was like high compression, and like they made the Beams motor, which was like for the like Lexus IS300, and it was like a rear-wheel drive 4-cylinder platform. And so again, they used the 3S GE and 3S GT for a lot of stuff. So because they made this Beams motor, the Beams motor was the same exact motor as mine, only not turbocharged. It had like 11-to-1 compression, which was basically like the Type R version of the Toyota's motor. And it produced 210 horsepower from the factory, where my turbo motor, because it was from 88, only produced 185. So I was going to lose the turbo, lose the lag, and I was going to gain more horsepower and just pure NA, pull power. So I bought the red top beams motor, brought it in, took it out, dropped the turbo motor out of the car. And then, believe it or not, the actual bell housing for the all-wheel drive system on my Celica that only came with my Celica fit the exact same mounting points on the new motor. Nothing was different. They even kept the old dowel pins that were used from my transmission. Awesome. They just don't change anything at Toyota, which again was just a testament to be like, oh, this fits newer models, but also it'll fit all the old models because we're not going to change it. We'll just add the new pieces. We're not going to erase the history. So again, it was one of those things that just made it directly to it. I didn't have to do any other things.
That's the best when you're working on a project. And it's like rare. And it just happens where it's like, oh my God, this works. And it makes everything a little bit easier.
Done.
It's like, yes, you know what I mean? So I get that for sure, man.
And I got timing components, all the like oiling gaskets and seals, all from Toyota still. And they had everything. Nice. So I mean, it's also wonderful to also sometimes work with manufacturers that have support. Yes. I've built some fun cars with friends, even restored some older cars. Like I rebuilt a Triumph with a buddy of mine, an old Triumph GT6. It's from the early 70s. Yeah. But trying to find parts for an old British car, like electric parts or something.
Yep.
Good luck. You know what I mean? Like nobody's got them. You're finding used parts. They're probably broken. So again, when you're also working with a company like Toyota, it sometimes choosing your brand for your project also can make your whole project an easier project. Absolutely. I mean, I was able to complete that Celica and it was running so easily and so quickly. I was astonished, but also that comes from only a manufacturer like Toyota who stands so far behind their product that you can trust them. And if you get an old Toyota, they'll probably have parts for you. And there's probably going to be some information on it. And they probably have pictures of all the part numbers you'd ever need. And so some of that is kind of cool too. I think that's also something that I've learned from doing different projects over the years. Like if you want certain things, pick what you love, of course. But other things, you might have to also pick your budget because some of these rare cars, some of these very cool cars, if they come from certain, even certain countries, I love my Italian heritage, but my Italian people aren't great about making electronics in their cars. I mean, Italian cars are horrible when it comes to their accessories working or like oil spilling out. It's like, I'm too busy. I have to smoke. Just look at the car. It's beautiful. And so, I mean, again, like some of those things are great and you want a Ferrari, but to work on it, to keep it up, to keep those things, it comes with a lot of extra work for the owner. So if you don't necessarily have that excess, you may not, that may not be the project for you, but you could have a fun project. Just have to pick the right manufacturer who's like, no, we have everything and we believe in this. Or you get something like a Lancia, where it's like, oh, they were defunct back in the 70s. You'll never find anything from them. They weren't even good when they were being made new. So good luck to you, sir. And then they're expensive on top of it. So part of that is, I think, one of the things I learned is sometimes picking the right brand will help you also build the car to the end.
Yeah,
that support is definitely
the aftermarket support for a lot of a lot of these brands like Honda. That's the reason why the community is so big. It's just the support behind it is just you can literally find any part for the cheapest possible, or the engineering is built specifically where all of them kind of align in some capacity. So I get that for sure, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's also the community builds a community because the car is so reliable and there's so many still on the road. The community lasts forever. I mean, that's the funny thing. Like, why is Honda so big? Well, because they don't break down. So you can keep them and pass them on and have extras and build, with your friends. And it's like, so part of that is also the fun part of you get both mix. You get the professional side from the manufacturer and you get a community that reciprocates and builds itself. So very cool and very fun. Those are the things I've learned.
One of the things I kind of wanted to talk about just to kind of like get into it is our relationship as far as friends, you know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things where as I've been working here for almost the same amount of time, bro, that I've been in Fresh Descendants, which is crazy. So kind of when I met you, I was kind of started working here, you know what I mean? Sure. And one of the things I've noticed as I've been working here and then breaking, it's very similar, bro. Like a lot of the lifestyle and the way that things work in the automotive community kind of aligns with the b-boy community. That's the reason why if you go to like a Tune Revolution event or something like that, or car meets, there's always some like b-boy battle that might be happening or something like that. You know, so it's like it's a weird cross reference that a lot of people will get. You know what I'm saying? Especially if they are b-boys, which b-boy is short for break boy, and I'm not gonna go into all that. But one of the But one of the things, that's the reason why me and Garrett know each other, is me and Garrett are part of this crew called Fresh Descendants, which is actually originated in Arizona, but one of the members actually moved to Seattle, and then that same member moved to New York for a little bit, and that member got to know us individually, and now all of a sudden me and Garrett are part of the same crew, and we've built a relationship off of that. As far as like him coming to travel here and us being in different areas in the United States together, competing together and all that. So one of the things I wanted to kind of talk to you about is, do you feel like breaking and kind of the automotive community align in some capacity, and how did they align for you?
I agree with you. I think that definitely, I mean, the b-boy community, b-girl community, but also I think hip-hop community a little bit definitely overlaps with the culture of like car community. I want to say that this is definitely, it's all, car culture has always been around, right? Our grandfathers and old people always hot rodded, right? Yeah. So hot rodders have always been around, but car culture, I think, is definitely like dwindled in generations as they've come around. And I just mean that in the fact that like, it was not available to me even in high school to take metal shop. There wasn't one. Like all the stuff I got was because Pop taught me. And so if Pop didn't teach me, there wasn't a community out there that was just going to start to teach. Now I know that, in the past, some generations, they did have those types of things. So you could learn that at maybe your local school, or maybe even at your local community, center or something like that. But I don't see that as much. And so I think part of that is a direct line that lies right over b-boying. Breaking is a fringe, kind of, I guess, idea. It's part of hip hop culture, which is definitely not like the mainstay. Hip hop culture, I would say on the outskirts, as opposed to, just rap and entertainment, or music culture from that side, where hip hop is, yes, singing, rapping is part of it, but there's 4 other elements to it. And so dancing being one of those, it's on the fringe. It's not just known about we only are recently in the last, I would say 5 years, even seeing it on the television the way that we're seeing it. When me and Luis started doing this, I mean, you may not ever see where these events were. They were in a back alley, in a warehouse, but then when you got there was 150 people super dedicated to this community, and they were all going wild, and the music was hot, and it was definitely the place to be, but none of the masses were seeing it. And so I think some of that overlay of each one teach one that comes from breaking definitely overlays directly onto our like automotive community. If we don't hot rod and teach our other younger generations about these, how to do work on your car, what are the fundamentals of like mechanical engineering, how do these systems fundamentally work, so you can understand what you're looking at, or you can understand how to diagnose your car so you're not at the mercy of just somebody else telling you, what does it mean to work on an ignition system, what is power going to, what is grounding, what are these fundamental systems, what does a hydraulic fluid do, how does it even work, so that if you were taking something apart you could be safe. Well, I know it's hydraulic fluid, even if I don't know what it's doing, I know how it should behave. And I think we have to teach each other those things, just like we have to teach each other our styles in b-boy. If we want to, have our crew, we have, crew moves, we have crew identity that we build when we make like routines, and we make like our own storytelling when we like do big crew battles. And so that only comes from us coming together and then teaching each other. So I think that overlay is directly from communities like the automotive community, which again, not on the fringe, but definitely the teaching of it is not like in our mainstay, it feels like. So I think some of that is the direct relation. It is a community focused, having to give its own life to itself. Otherwise it would actually just fizzle. Again, even like the wheels that you guys make, like if you guys didn't want to see cool wheels on cars and you just were like, well, we'll just not do that because it's just like, it's not mainstream, then it just wouldn't survive itself. Nobody would, no big manufacturer would come out and be like, let's make more wheels for less money. They'd be like, no, let's just make it at as minimum as we can to make maximum profit. I mean, again, manufacturers and a lot of businesses are kind of beholden to profit sharing and profit margin. So if that's the case, publicly traded, companies have to behold to that. Okay, no problem. But that means that our community has to step up to be like, well, if these people aren't going to teach us, or if the mainstays of our education system aren't going to teach us these things, then we have to teach each other these things. We have to be our community. It takes a village to raise, the generation below us. So if we want our generation to be hot rodders, we got to teach them how to hot rod. And we got to bring them into our shops, and we got to say, all right, well then start holding the flashlight, man, and I'll show you how these systems work. And then I'm going to try to have you do this on your car, or maybe a broken car, and see if you mess it up. If you do, we'll make sure we make fun of you, and then you won't ever do it again. We'll tease you in front of all the guys at the shop, and you'll never do it again. It'll be great.
I think for me, it's like one of those things. It's like the discipline part. Like there's obviously also the aesthetically beautiful things of like the car community and breaking itself. You know what I mean? But the dissection of how you do, like a gearhead, for example, breaks apart everything and puts it back together and tries to refix it. It's the same thing with breaking, man. It's like what we do. It's like the people outside of that don't really do it can't see what we're doing when you love this. And that's the reason what makes it so beautiful. Like when you finish up a project or when you execute a breaking move. And those things to me are similar in a sense where it's like this mad scientist thing. That's why I was actually showing him like Amir and Stripes and stuff like that. And I was telling him the reason why I like the way these guys break is because they're not the quintessential b-boy, you know what I'm saying? In a sense where they're like putting stuff together and saying, you know what, let me try this move and reinvent it. And now all of a sudden a new breaking style comes alive. And the same thing with car community. It's a lot of the things that we do, you know, from the evolution to where it was to how it is now to how you were saying that ECU, the way that an ECU is built now could change the whole trajectory of how the car is built to now horsepower, like, you know, the way that that there's the level of horsepower that a car hits compared to the 80s and 90s is insanity. To now we're going into a world where we have a hybrid EV Chevy Corvette coming out, you know, like it's insane that we've gotten to this level. And I'm actually very excited to see what we're going to do in this car community, because that's the one thing that I love. It's evolution. Some people hate it, you know, because that's what we do as a community. We hate things that when they evolve, you know, for me specifically, I see these EV thing and the hybrids coming in. I think hybrid is the right way to go. That's just my personal opinion, you know, because I think we have to test the waters with that first before we go full EV. That's just my opinion, you know, but I think, you know, like where we're going is a beautiful thing, man. I think to me specifically, seeing what we can do and engineer in the car community when it comes to EVs is spectacular, and I'm ready for it.
It is. Me too. I think, Rich, I mean, I don't know what you feel about EVs and about.
I'm not too excited about the EV stuff. I mean, I like
this guy's an internal combustion dude.
Listen,
you know what
I like hybrid cars to an extent, but if they have to go electric in any sense, I'd much rather a hybrid than EV total. But you know, I don't know how the whole future thing is gonna happen. I think hybrid is not. I think it's already pretty obvious that it's more sustainable. Yeah. So I don't see why there's a reason to avoid it. The EV stuff, I think there's gonna be a point where it kind of crashes and burns. But we'll see. I don't know. Yep. All these companies are making me feel like that they have the wrong mindset of what they're trying to do for the future. They're all saying, we're going to scrap everything we've ever done, start from scratch and go EV total. And it's like you guys have years and years of experience of combustion engines, and you have the access to, you know, electric motors and stuff like that, battery power stuff, and just, you know, intertwine it and then make a really good vehicle. But now they're just saying, we'll throw that out, all the years of work that we did. You know, I don't know.
That's why when the CEO of Toyota said, like, scrap that, we're going to do hybrid because this is what we know, I think it's the right move, man. Yeah. I think mixing a little bit with what you know and what you don't know and making something that can evolutionize as time progresses and then while we learn, but that's the right way to do it. But to sit there and say, like, by this time we have to go full EV, to me, it just doesn't make sense because we don't know. It's an unknown.
Especially a time frame. That's crazy, you know?
Yeah, the time frame to me is insane. You know what I mean?
I agree.
But that's what you get when you get like politicians getting involved into something that they don't know. They just want to put their footprint into something and then just say, this is it, deal with it. When it's like, all these years of engineering that we've done, you're just really just going to throw it out in the garbage and say we start all over? It's just insane.
Not only that, but how do you account for, like we just had like a global standstill for 2 years with the pandemic. Like, how can you put a date on it and be like, 2035, this has to happen by then? Who knows what's going to happen in the world? Yeah. Hey, another pandemic hits or something like that, that takes off another 2 years. I mean, and they made zero progress in that time. And they might have went back, 10 steps during that time because of, supply chains and stuff like that. But
And
I
we've
don't know.
noticed that. That's been a problem. I mean, supply
Yeah.
chain is one of the bigger things that we've noticed in
Oh, yeah.
EVs. The fact that we don't have the availability to make that type of stuff.
All
We don't have
industries are feeling that though. It's not even just automotive. Every industry is feeling this problem. So
Of course.
Dude, look what happened to GM, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that
Yeah.
whole the whole recall of the car. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just we don't want to deal with that again. And
I
that's
think, I think it's going to lead to cutting corners. I think it's going to
Exactly.
trying to meet the deadline,
deadline.
that they set, and it's going to end up with cutting corners and a crappy product.
Yep.
So I don't think it's the right move.
Now here's a silver lining to this cloud that I think both of you will like, because I've been thinking about this too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, like you said, there's this big rollout. Like Lexus is going to go all EV.
Right,
in some of
Volvo's
their-
going to go all EV. Right.
Now again, some of those things I get for certain things, right? Like I get, okay, so if you get a Lexus EV, it's already luxury. So luxury is mostly like about sound, comfort, delivery. Okay, maybe that can be done with a hybrid or an EV totally, because you're not trying to do sport. But the other side of it that I love is if all these companies, which some of them are like Lotus, is going EV, they're going to give us the last hurrah of their combustion motor.
well,
which is like
but that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Which is like the Emira, the Corolla GR.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
I mean, all these like ones that you're seeing that, and so if I would say the biggest one that I've seen is like Dodge. So Dodge is releasing like I think it's called like their like Ace of Spades pack or whatever, and they're basically giving you like all of their concept cars that they did
Yes.
before. Like they're doing like the King Daytona Charger, which is extra wide, but it's got a wide body and then it's got fender flares on the wide body. And so like they're releasing all of the ones that they made for like the concept shows for SEMA for like the last 8 years. They're like, remember all these ones we brought to SEMA?
Mhm.
Okay, for the last hurrah, you can order all of these. You have to order them. Yes, they'll be more expensive, but you can have the crazy Scat Super Pack. You can have the
Yep.
King Daytona. You can have the Charger Demon Special. You know, so it's like if that is also the other side of it, then we, as the gentlemen who are of the right age potentially, and maybe the earning power, we have a potential opportunity to get some of the sweetest engineering stuff we're going to get from some of these manufacturers, and it'll come with a warranty.
That's definitely true. But then I think about also down the line, people are not going to have growing up with the same type of stuff that we had. Like,
But that's what happens.
But that sucks, man. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember the first time, ripping a VTEC car, you hear a crossover, and you're just like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like, the kids are going to grow up with, like, hey, man, like, look at this screen. This is crazy. This can call my mom with me thinking. It's like that's the highlights of their childhood, of their automotive career. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
Yeah,
But
it's a
that's
shame.
where
Yeah.
that's where the community has to come in, like you said. Like that's where we have to
Yes.
keep send those
Yes.
kids into that type of stuff and be
Yes.
like, yes, this is what you do to get to work and to
Yeah.
get to class, and this is what your bus is going to run
Yeah.
on. But you can have this little Datsun 510, and we got a sweet little intake manifold on here that screams all the way to 10 grand.
Right.
And everybody in their silent cars will look at you as you rip past them.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing, I guess, is as long as we keep, I think, like our communities alive, and I think the biggest thing is like you said, the leaders don't understand it. I don't think they're moving with whichever way the pendulum swings to get them
Of
reelected,
course.
because it's
Yeah.
not going to affect their bottom dollar. And I don't even think they're most of them, except for maybe like people like Jesse Ventura when he was like the governor of California. Like some of those guys like cars, but most of them are politics. They don't care about cars. They care about
course.
power and what their next
Exactly.
move
In
is.
fact, they don't like cars.
Yeah.
Most of them, they drive around in cars, or actually they get driven
Get
around.
driven
in
around,
SUVs.
yeah.
They don't care. They're going to meetings. Cars are literally just a part of the transportation of their life.
Exactly. Yep.
So I guess the other side is that we as voters really need to make sure that we protect what we love. We need to protect the ideas
Absolutely.
of like our
We talk
our
about this
tracks.
all the
We need
time,
to
too.
keep that type of taxes down on specialty cars. So maybe we charge more for just the EVs, but if you have a specialty car, or we allow like smaller manufacturers to make more of these older cars. Maybe you manufacture like we've seen with Singer Porsche. Now that's an extreme because they're very expensive, but if you had more of those companies allowed to make VINs, and they didn't have to compete with GM at the tax level or all those types of safety levels, but they were like, we're only going to do limited purchases, but they're not going to be crazy expensive. And you can have an old Datsun 510. You can have an old 240 that we're going to rebuild. You can have an old Isuzu. We're doing Impulses. We're doing crazy, weird JDM ones. But if you could allow companies to do that, not only would you bring manufacturing back into America, but you could then have those fun cars that would be available at a cheaper price, because your average person would just buy a people mover. Yeah, let me get the Prius. This moves me around, but I have 18 different companies that make all these other cool small cars with these little tiny different motors, kind of like when Mini used to be like you could get a Mini Morris or you could get a Mini Lotus or a Mini Austin, and they all had just different motors. Yeah. So maybe we can get back to some of those days where, again, we just get rid of a little bit of the government regulation that kind of restricted us because we were so much about people safety and moving them around, and just say, okay, yeah, most people are still safe because most of them are now driving the electrics, the hybrids. They have extra safety features, and let the enthusiasts really enthuse. Let them be. There's not enough of them to cause much of a problem. And again, I think we get lumped in our enthusiast group. I mean, Richard, Luis, tell me if I'm wrong. I think we get lumped in with some of that takeover styling and some of that like
absolutely, yeah.
And I don't think that is what we are.
It's unfair, kind of, to be honest. Yeah, it's kind of unfair that we get lumped into that, you know. So.
Yes,
but
so
it's
that's what we are.
From the outside perspective. From the outside perspective, I mean, it's the same thing. Again, I like to reference with b-boying, and one of the things that we talk about here all the time is like he's very aware actually of how breaking works, which is actually very cool because he has friends.
The man's got style. Look at his.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, Max was saying I took this style from Luis, which I beg to differ.
But you know, some of the things that he'll ask me, he'll be like, "Yo, you know, what do you think of like power moves taking over like the way that dancing style, like, just being able to dance up top and stuff and footwork?" And I'm like, yo, that's very insightful of you to see that. But not everyone sees it like that. People see breaking and they think power moves. It's the same thing with cars.
Right.
People see cars and they think Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Takeover. And people are sitting there road racing each other on the regular streets. It's like, bro, not everybody's like that. The majority, especially people who are around our age and stuff like that, we like to do things properly. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to always be on the streets. I don't want to be on the streets, although I had a time period where I was on the streets. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that that's what I am now. Mm-hmm. And majority of us, I feel like, are not the takeover people. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I can't really speak too much on b-boying, but I will say, like, we're from New York, so like when you're on the subways in New York, sometimes you get those guys who come onto the subway and they just start doing a whole routine, and they're up in everyone's faces and stuff like that. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but is that something like equivalent to like a takeover?
Kind of.
in the automotive.
In some capacity.
Like, they're hanging upside down from the rails in the subway and stuff like that. You know, they're dancing on top of people and whatnot.
We actually call those guys hitters.
Hitters.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I gotta say,
I called them annoying. Oh man,
bang bang. But I gotta say, I think also with our generation, some of that is the difference of like clout chasing. So when I remember doing some of the street races and stuff, like even around the Pacific Northwest, I'm gonna knock on wood, it wasn't the smartest thing to do by all means, because it was dangerous what we were doing. Dude, we were out there at 2:30, 4 in the morning. Yeah. Nobody was on the street. We didn't tell nobody about it. We were only like messaging our friends that were going to be there. Ain't nobody filming shit. Or if you did, it was like only on the worst, camcorder anyway. And nobody was putting it online. It was for us to look at later and to like brag or to like put on if we had girls over or something. Be like, yep, check out the handbrake turn.
I did that.
But you know what I mean? Like the idea is that now the takeover scene seems again more like we're going to take this street over. We're going to maybe even hit people, break cars, but then we're going to actually film it to try to get 1 million views. There wasn't 1 million views to get. In fact, we kept our shit low.
Yeah.
It's because we were actually like going to get caught. And we were like, that's evidence. That's admissible. We can't
bro, here, bro, we would go to like an abandoned like factory area where we made sure like we're not going to hit anyone or there's anything, not only that, but then again, still, it was still stupid. I'm not knocking the fact that it was stupid.
Speaking of what Garrett just said, remember I showed you that video of, he was saying I like to keep it low, I didn't want all the views. Remember I showed you that thing about that YouTuber who got his house raided because of videos that lived on his YouTube channel of him like, I don't know, speeding or something. Yeah. And like, he had those videos of him just messing around in like a Trackhawk or something on his YouTube channel, and they ended up raiding his house because they had a warrant out for his arrest because of that. Like that's some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I don't. That whole story, I was like, I don't know about that story.
Well, I mean,
I'll send it to you, Garrett, so you can kind of check out what it is.
It is a crazy video.
It is a crazy
the police
video.
like raid his house completely. Like multiple people.
But he's a YouTuber too.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
again, if you break the law and then you have evidence of you breaking the law and you put it on a public forum, and then the entities that are supposed to keep that law and check he sent us the crime he committed. Let's just get him. It's just like, well, I mean, if you're going to snitch on yourself, I don't know what else you're supposed to do, right?
It's true.
Tell me, point in court, who did that?
Yeah.
I did. Me.
That's true.
So yeah, I mean, that's true, but I think that's a difference too. I mean, when we were coming up, and even the first cars, I remember, kind of messing around with our street racing stuff. Again, not smart because we could have gotten hurt. Mostly,
Absolutely.
but we were down key. Nobody knew about it. We were
Low key.
In fact, we weren't trying to tell people about it because we wanted to keep doing it and not get arrested or honestly get our cars taken away.
Yeah.
So I think also nowadays it seems a different mindset completely.
But I think it's also social media, man. Social media made it a little bit different. It made it, like you said, clout chasing type of stuff. So the crazier it is, the crazier it is, the more views you get on it. Like, legitimately, it's just what it is. That's everything across the board, not just car community, anything. The crazier you do it, the more likes and views you get. You know what I'm saying? Person jumps, person jumps off a bridge and lands on something. It gets 1,000 views. It's insane that we live in this type of era, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, again, we just have to work with it. But I just think that's a difference that I'm noticing, because I think that crowd or that group is not necessarily the engineering group that we all grew up with, and the lovers of the racers and the lovers of the actual engine, like learning of the car. I think, again, those people, because I see them break their cars and destroy some of their bikes and stuff. So I'm like, I think you're more about, again, that video, and your machine is just a way to get that clout. And we are more the community that's like, I don't care what car you got. Tell me about how you built this. Tell me about what you did in your style to make it. And I mean, I think, like we were saying, the cultures from around the world too change. Like, you go to Japan, you got the Bozuko guys building something crazy out there. You go to South America, they have cars I've never even seen. They have like Volkswagens that, like, you never got in any other country, that they tune completely up to be like Porsches. I mean, I think some of that stuff is it's always totally out there for people to find their own style. But I don't know if all of the things get tied to our automotive community is necessarily, really our community. You know what I mean?
Bro, it's a true story. We were at a tuning shop over here, and this we were like doing a car walk around of this guy's car, and he's also he was a mechanic there, so he was like, "Yo, can you hold on?" And he left his mic on, so he had to go see a customer and talk to the customer, and the customer literally was like, he's a young kid. He had, I think, a 350Z. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Or maybe it was an Infinity. I'm not sure. It was one. Anyways, doesn't matter. He goes up to, they're talking to each other. He's like, "Yo, I want my car to be loud and fast." That's all he says, bro. He doesn't say like, and the guy's like, "What are you talking about? Like, we can't, He's like, "No, I want it to sound," and then he shows him a video. "I want it to sound like this," and I'm like,
"Oh man.
Oh, this is the type of people we're dealing with nowadays. These are the car guys of this time."
Yeah, if you want to call it that.
But the car was pretty sweet. It wasn't a bad looking car. It's just like, he's just not the typical. He just wants to do what the next man is doing or the next woman is doing.
Yeah, it kills innovation. It kills creativity.
Exactly. Not trying.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yep,
I'm not.
I agree. I think that I think is what we as a community have to keep pushing against. We have to keep teaching the people, bringing people together, and those young people be like, actually, that's not what's going to get you what you want. What you really want to do is you want the knowledge, you want to learn, so you can be this like intelligent about your car. You can work on this stuff. You can make it faster, and it'll always, because most of those, like you said, that clout chasing isn't going to actually make them feel like they have a better car. Because as soon as they don't get those views, it's going to be like, well, I hate my car. It's like, well, you weren't really into cars, man, because I know some guys, man, their car blows up 4 or 5 times. They're like, nope, new motor, going in. We're still going to hurt my... They just keep punishing themselves. But I think,
But yeah, bro.
Community, for sure.
With that said, man, I think we're already an hour in. I knew we knew
we
were gonna
do an hour?
Yeah, bro. I knew we were gonna do that. I knew it. I had a feeling. I was like, well, I know me and Garrett are gonna just talk about everything.
Anything,
For sure. And we did. We literally touched on just about everything.
Except, where do you think? When do you think we're gonna go into space with cars. No, I'm just playing. No. Let's not get into
that one up there. Shoot, it's orbiting.
No, but Garrett, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Literally, thank you so much, man, because it's something that was on the works already. So I appreciate that you taking the time to talk to us, to let us know about what's going on with you and the Namsayin group and the shop and everything. It was just really interesting stuff, and also your projects and stuff. And obviously, as you know, one of the things that we always say is when we have guests on here, when you want to work together, you let me know. We can work together. You know what I'm saying? I know you have projects going on, so we're already on the works of kind of figuring that out. So
yeah,
man. Thank you again.
I mean, I would love to have I mean, again, I kind of have a unique position working at the shop. So if there's a way that we can make, shop and Kong Wheel collaboration happen and do a big show out in Seattle, I would love to do something like that. And we should definitely talk about that. Maybe even one that goes to all the shops.
Yes,
travel
sir.
something around, make something really cool. But I'd love to, again, continue to work with you. I mean, we're going to have a relationship anyway, Luis. I mean, our friendship ain't going to stop.
Yep.
And Richard, it's been great to meet you. Thanks for having me on today. It was awesome. Again, I just want to say again, I'd love to, if I can, just a moment plug some of the please do. We have out here. Again, I mean, people, if they want to follow along, Al and Walter's group, Namsayin, and of course, you can hear me on the podcast for the Namsayin Cars and Convo podcast. You can follow us at Namsayin. You can follow Walter at Waffle Design, and you can follow Al Michael Franco at al.michaelfranco. Reach out to us if you want to talk to anything on the pod. You can reach out to any of us and give us feedback at namsayin07@gmail.com. You can find me. I'm G_rat206 on Instagram. I'll be putting up a bunch of stuff for the FD and the RX-7 will be hitting a lot of shows this coming season, as it's been a long time coming. So I know Luis will be kind of maybe even help me out with some wheel choices, which would be fantastic. So again, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks so much for what you do. Love both of you guys, and peace.
Appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thank you, Garrett. Have a good one, man.
Have a great
one,
guys.
I'll talk to you soon. I'll hit you up text message.
Alrighty, sounds good. Thanks, Luis. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So I knew that conversation was going to be easy. Actually, we talked about it before. We were like, when you have rapport with someone and you kind of know them, the conversation becomes easier. And he, and not only the fact that he's a true gearhead, like literally to the point where me and you were just kind of just listening to him talk, because there's certain things that he's doing in his project that we're not, I've never worked on an FD, so I don't know what it's like, or a Rotary project, so it's kind of interesting to kind of hear him talk about that. And yeah, man, I'm appreciative of that. But with that said, guys, thank you so much for joining us on another podcast. Make sure to tune in every Friday where we have a piece of content that we throw up this week. What are we doing this week?
Wheel Tech.
Wheel Tech. All right. So make sure you tune in this Friday where we're going to have on our YouTube channel where we're going to drop a Wheel Tech. What was it about again? I'm trying to think what this
It's the top 5 tips on if you just got new wheels and tires.
There you go. Top 5 tips if you got new wheels and tires.
There you go.
So basically it's just from the Koenig perspective, giving you some tips on how to maintain those wheels and make sure that you're not dealing with problems in the past like I have. Long story short, let's say I had a truck back in the day and for some reason I couldn't take off the wheel because I installed the lug nuts incorrectly and it bit me in the ass because it cost me a lot more money and I hated that. So this piece of content is basically helping you avoid that. So make sure you tune in this Friday on our YouTube channel. On top of the fact that in about this already passed, but we're going to be doing every Wednesday we do a live Q&A on our Instagram where we answer any of the questions that you have. So basically, if you want to ask us from what we're eating in lunch to what bolt pattern wheel you need and all that, I don't know. Whatever it is, you ask us at 2 p.m. live every Wednesday and we'll answer it. And we're here live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. And thank you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. We appreciate you all. And we'll talk to you very soon. Happy Wheel Wednesday.
Peace.